The blade awakens, beneath the blood-red skies of Jurai, the silence is a shroud, heavy and unbroken, save for the mournful wail of the wind threading through the jagged teeth of rock formations. Jason Keller's boots leave fleeting imprints in the rust-hued sand, each step a quiet rebellion against the stillness. Beside him, Echo hums faintly, its sleek form cutting through the air like a restless spirit, its sensors drinking in the enigma before them, a colossal sword, plunged deep into the earth, its surface shimmering with a blue-white pulse that feels alive, ancient, and impossibly aware. The blade's edges are etched with runes that twist and writhe under Jason's gaze, as if they're whispering secrets in a tongue forgotten by time. He kneels, gloved fingers hovering over the metal, and his reflection stares back, fractured, shifting, a stranger's face caught in a dreamlike distortion. Echo's voice cuts through the haze, cool and measured, yet tinged with an unease it cannot hide. Jason, scans indicate no known metal composition. The sword is ancient, millennia old, but the energy readings suggest it's alive. Jason's breath catches, his hand trembling as he brushes the hilt. Then why does it look like something out of Earth's myths? His voice is low, almost lost to the wind, as if he fears the answer. Perhaps because it is, Echo replies, its tone dipping into a cryptic murmur. And yet, something has kept it here, waiting. The words hang like a prophecy. Jason's pulse quickens, a drumbeat against the silence, and his fingers close around the hilt. The instant he grips it, the world inhales, a shudder ripples through the sand, a low hum rising from the depths, rattling his bones. Caution, Jason, Echo begins, but its warning drowns in the chaos that follows. Boom. The ground splits. A shockwave tears outward, a roar of unleashed power that flattens the dunes. Sand cascades like blood from a wound as massive stone forms erupt from beneath the surface. Hulking, biomechanical titans, their bodies a fusion of rock, metal, and glowing circuitry. The alien guardians awaken, their electric blue eyes flickering to life, piercing the night with an otherworldly gaze. Zurakai, their leader, steps forward, a towering figure of menace and grace, 12 feet of sculpted stone laced with serpentine energy that pulses like veins of liquid light. His clawed hand extends, not in threat, but in reverence, his voice a deep resonance that shakes the air. Only one of the blood may wield the blade of Jurai. Jason's brow furrows, his human hands flexing uncertainly. I don't know what that means. But I think I'm about to find out. His grip tightens, and with a surge of will, he wrenches the sword free. Light explodes, blinding, infinite, a scream of energy that consumes the night. The guardians drop to their knees, their heads bowed as if in the presence of a god. But the sky answers with a growl, a shadow pierces the clouds, a worship of alien design, vast and malevolent, descending like a predator scenting prey. Zurakai's gaze lifts, his voice a grave whisper. The ancient enemy returns. And now, the fate of both our worlds lies in your hands. Jason clutches the blade, its weight both a burden and a promise, as the horizon darkens with the shadow of war. The truth of the blade, deep beneath Zurai's crimson sands, the temple of the wielders unfolds like a crypt of forgotten gods. Jason follows Zurakai through its shadowed halls, the air thick with dust and the hum of ancient power. The walls shimmer with holographic murals, scenes of battle and triumph, warriors clad in armor wielding the blade of Jurai, its light carving through darkness. But one image stops Jason cold, a figure, unmistakably human, standing among the alien titans, the sword raised high. Who are they? Jason's voice echoes, a thread of awe and dread woven into the question. Zurakai's massive form looms beside him, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Your ancestors. The first wielders. Long ago, they stood alongside us. But when the war came, they fled. They abandoned the blade. His words carry the weight of betrayal, a wound still raw across millennia. Jason steps closer, and the mural shifts, a hologram flares to life, a hooded figure materializing in a haze of light. The first wielder's voice crackles through time, worn but resolute. To the one who awakens the blade. We failed. We left Jurai behind. But the war is not over. The image glitches, fragments of static eating at the figure's form. The blade is not just a weapon. It is a key. The message dies, leaving silence in its wake. Jason turns to Zurakai, his eyes burning with questions. A key to what? The Titan opens his mouth to speak, but the temple trembles, a deafening explosion splitting the stillness. Echo's voice crackles through Jason's comms, urgent and sharp. Jason. Enemy forces inbound, hundreds of them. Dust rains from the ceiling as the Guardians shift into motion, their massive forms bristling with readiness. Jason's hand tightens on the sword, its pulse syncing with his own, a heartbeat of power he doesn't yet understand. Outside, the war drums sound, and the truth of the blade begins to unfurl in blood and fire. The war begins, the city of ruins stretches across Zurai's surface, a graveyard of shattered spires and crumbled stone now alive with the chaos of battle. Enemy drones swarm the sky, their metallic screeches slicing through the night, while war beasts, hulking, biomechanical monstrosities, tear through the sand. Jason stands at the heart of it, the blade of Jurai blazing in his hands. Each swing unleashes a torrent of energy, arcs of light that ripple outward, reducing drones to ash and beasts to ruin. He moves like a force of nature, untrained yet unstoppable, the sword guiding him where instinct fails, but the air grows heavy, a shadow swallowing the battlefield. Lord Vexus descends, his presence a void that silences the clamor. 7 feet of obsidian war armor encase him, his face hidden behind a featureless mask that reflects nothing, not light, not hope. At last. The last wielder reveals himself, he intones, his voice a cold blade sliding through the air. Jason plants his feet. Raising the sword. Who the hell are you? Vexus draws his own weapon, a twisted mirror of Jason's blade, pulsing with a dark, hungry energy that devours the light around it. I am the end of your bloodline. Their clash is cataclysmic. A sonic boom erupts, the ground fracturing beneath them as light and darkness collide. The battle is a dance of fury, Jason's raw power against Vexus' merciless precision. But the warlord's skill is ancient, honed by centuries of hate, and Jason falters. Vexus drives his blade forward, piercing Jason's side, the tip grazing past his heart. Jason collapses, blood pooling in the sand, staining it a deeper crimson. Vexus towers over him, his voice dripping with contempt. You are unworthy of that blade. Your ancestors ran. And so shall you. He raises his weapon for the final strike, but Zurakai charges, a titan of vengeance, forcing Vexus back. The Guardians rally, dragging Jason from the fray as the enemy presses forward. The blade slips from his grasp, its glow dimming, and the night swallows them as they flee into the unknown. The lost wielders, aboard the starship Echo 1, adrift in the void of a hidden system, Jason's wounds burn as fiercely as his resolve. The Guardians guide him to a flickering beacon of life, a lost human colony, its people descendants of the first wielders. Among them stands Lyra Voss, a warrior scholar with eyes that hold the weight of forgotten history. She approaches, her gaze tracing the blade at Jason's side. Jurai was once our home, she says, her voice steady yet laced with a quiet fire. We abandoned it out of fear. But you were chosen. The blade called you. Jason, weak but unyielding, begins to train under her guidance. The sword becomes an extension of him, its energy threading through his veins. Each strike grows sharper, each movement more fluid. Echo's scans reveal the mystery deepening. Jason, your neural patterns are evolving. The blade is rewriting you. He stares at his hands, the faint glow beneath his skin a testament to the change. No longer just human, he is becoming something else, something the blade demands. The lost wielders watch in silent awe, their whispered legends taking form before their eyes. In the shadows of the colony, the hum of the sword grows louder, a call to destiny that echoes across the stars. Final battle, Jurai trembles beneath the weight of invasion. Vex's forces descend in a storm of fire and steel, warships tearing through the sky, their shadows drowning the crimson sands. Jason, now one with the blade of Jurai, leads the countercharge, guardians and humans united, their resolve forged in the crucible of survival. The battlefield is a symphony of chaos, a clash of titans and mortals against an unrelenting tide. At its center, Jason faces Vexus once more. Their duel is a rupture. In reality, light and darkness twisting, bending, shattering the air. With a final, desperate strike, Jason drives the blade through Vexus' armor, the obsidian shell cracking like a broken promise. Beneath the mask, a human face stares back, pale and scarred, a mirror of betrayal. You were one of us. Jason's voice wavers, caught between rage and disbelief. Vexus' lips twist into a weak, bitter smile. We were left behind. And now, you will suffer as we did. His hand slams down. Activating a doomsday device, a pulsing core of annihilation buried in the sand, time slows. Jason's eyes lock on the blade, its light flaring brighter than ever. With a cry that echoes across worlds, he plunges it into the core. A shockwave erupts, pure, blinding, a tide of energy that consumes the darkness, the enemy, and Vexus himself. The sands fall silent, purged of shadow, but Jason is gone, vanished in the light, leaving only the sword, still, silent, waiting once more. The guardians kneel, the wielders weep, and Jurai holds its breath, as if the mystery of the blade has only begun to unfold. Legacy, years have slipped into the shadowed folds of time, and Jurai lies quiet under a crimson sky, its wounds slowly healing beneath the weight of memory. The blade of Jurai stands sentinel once more, thrust into the earth where Jason's sacrifice burned away the darkness. Its glow is faint now, a heartbeat stilled, yet the air hums with a restless anticipation, an unspoken promise that the tale is far from over. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a young figure stumbles through a wasteland of ash and ruin, drawn by whispers they cannot name. Their hand brushes the hilt of a relic buried in the dust, a shard of the blade's legacy pulsing faintly with the same blue-white light. The ground trembles beneath them, a sigh from the depths, and the stars above shift as if watching. A new wielder has been chosen, their path veiled in mystery, their destiny a thread unraveling into the unknown. The adventure stirs anew, its echoes reaching back to Jurai, where the blade waits patient and eternal. Aftermath and exile, the battlefield stretches across Jurai's scarred surface, a tapestry of devastation woven with ash and flickering embers. Fires smolder in the distance, their glow a faint counterpoint to the blade of Jurai, still embedded where Jason vanished in a blaze of light. Its faint shimmer is a question mark against the night, a relic of a war won, and a mystery unresolved. Lyra Voss stands before it, her armor battered, her eyes tracing the blade's edges as if they might reveal the truth. The surviving wielders linger behind her, their silence heavy with loss. Jason. Where are you? She whispers, her voice a fragile thread in the wind. Zurikai kneels beside her, his massive form bowing under the weight of revelation. He has entered the rift, he rumbles, his words reverberating like a tolling bell. Lyra's gaze snaps to him, disbelief warring with hope. The rift? That's just legend. Her protest is swallowed by a sudden surge, a burst of energy erupts from the blade. Sharp and blinding. The air fractures, and a vision unfolds. Jason, adrift in a void of infinite stars, his body aglow with a radiance that defies comprehension. His voice echoes through the ether, distant yet piercingly clear. I'm not gone. But I don't know where I am. The image fades, the rift's window slamming shut with a soundless finality. Lyra's breath catches, her hands clenching into fists. She turns to the guardians, determination igniting in her eyes. We're not done. If Jason's in the rift, we're going to bring him back. The wielders murmur assent, their resolve hardening like steel in the crucible of purpose. Above them, the sky churns, as if the universe itself senses the storm yet to come. The rift dimension, darkness cradles Jason, an endless expanse of swirling nebulae in fractured time, where seconds bleed into centuries and back again. He awakens, weightless, the blade of Jurai clutched in his hands, its glow extinguished, a lifeless husk in this strange realm. Whispers coil around him, soft and insistent, calling his name in voices that feel both alien and achingly familiar. He turns, and they appear, the first wielders, their forms encased in crystalline stasis, floating like ghosts in the void. Their armor gleams faintly, etched with the same runes that adorn his blade. One steps forward, a woman with silver eyes that burn like twin stars. Mirai, her presence commands the silence. You have crossed into the rift. The place between worlds, she says, her voice a melody woven with sorrow and steel. Jason's grip tightens on the blade, its silence a wound he doesn't understand. I need to get back. The war isn't over. Mirai's hand presses against his chest, her touch warm yet piercing, as if peering into his soul. Your journey is far from over, wielder. The war was only the beginning. There is something worse waiting beyond the rift. Before he can question her, the darkness shifts, a shadow unfurls, vast and alive, its edges bleeding into the void. The Void King emerges, taller than Vexus, his form a tapestry of living shadow that drinks in the light. His voice rumbles, timeless and inevitable. At last. Another wielder has entered my domain. Jason raises the blade, its dull edge a defiant gesture. The Void King's smirk is a crack in the abyss. You think you understand the blade? Fool. It was never meant to be wielded by your kind. A wave of darkness surges, and Jason is hurled backward, swallowed by an endless night that promises no dawn. A new war begins, beyond Jurai, in the cold expanse of space, the wielder fleet gathers, a patchwork of ships crewed by the first wielder's descendants and the Guardian's unyielding might. Lyra stands at the helm, her gaze fixed on the shimmering anomaly ahead, the rift's threshold, a wound in reality that pulses with unspoken danger. The air is thick with resolve, tempered by the weight of Zurikai's warning. Jason was not the first to enter the rift, the Titan says, his voice a low thunder. Others have gone before him. None have returned unchanged. Lyra's jaw tightens, her hands tracing the hilt of her own weapon, a shard of Zurai's legacy, forged for this moment. Jason saved us. Now it's our turn. The fleet hums to life, engines flaring as they plunge into the rift, a chorus of light piercing the unknown. Within the anomaly, time frays and space bends, the ships navigating a labyrinth of nebulae and echoes. The wielders steel themselves. Their blood singing with the call of their ancestors, unaware of the shadow that stirs beyond, a darkness far older than Vexus, its hunger vast and patient. The new war looms, its shape hidden in the folds of the rift, waiting to claim them all. Jason versus the Void King. The Void King's realm is a crucible of collapsing time, an arena where moments fracture and reform in endless cycles. Jason stands against the shadow, the blade of Jurai a faint spark in his hands. Each strike he lands rewinds, the Void King's laughter echoes as Jason dies, again and again, his body torn apart only to reassemble in the next breath, but with each death, he learns. Patterns emerge in the chaos, a rhythm to the timeless dance. His eyes sharpen, seeing beyond the veil, past and future blurring into a single thread. The blade isn't just a weapon, he gasps, realization dawning. It's a bridge between past and future. He drives the blade into the ground, and the rift trembles. Light flares, and they appear, the wielders of ages past, summoned from their crystalline prisons. Mirai fights beside him, her silver gaze fierce, joined by countless others, their blades igniting the darkness. The Void King roars, his form swelling with fury. You cannot defy fate. Jason grins, blood-streaked and unbroken. I don't believe in fate. With a final, shattering strike, he channels the blade's full power, a torrent of light that rends the Void King's form, scattering him into fragments of shadow. But as the entity dissolves, a whisper slithers free, chilling and prophetic. You have only freed me. The rift collapses, a scream of energy pulling Jason back to reality. He emerges on Zurai's sands, the blade pulsing once more, the wielder's fleet landing around him. The Void King's words linger, a riddle unsolved, as the stars above flicker with the promise, or threat, of what lies beyond. Return to Zurai. The crimson dawn breaks over Zurai, its light fractured by tendrils of smoke curling from the scarred earth. A streak of fire tears through the sky. Jason's form, wreathed in shimmering energy, crashes into the sand with a force that sends ripples across the dunes. The blade of Zurai clatters beside him, its glow erratic, as if struggling to anchor itself to this reality. Lyra and the wielders sprint toward the crater, their breaths held in suspense, the air thick with the scent of ozone and mystery. Jason stirs, his eyes snapping open, twin orbs aglow with the eerie, iridescent light of the rift. His skin hums with faint veins of energy, a lattice of power pulsing beneath the surface. He is no longer just flesh and blood, something vast and unknowable has woven itself into his being. Lyra drops to her knees beside him, her voice trembling with awe and fear. Jason. What happened? He lifts his hands, staring as the energy dances across his fingertips, a silent storm contained within. We won the battle, he says, his voice resonant with an echo not entirely his own. But something worse is coming. Above them, the sky shudders, a jagged scar of the rift hangs open, its edges bleeding tendrils of shadow and light. It didn't close, it merely paused, a held breath before the storm. From its depths, a low hum rises, a whisper of something colossal stirring awake. The wielders exchange glances, their hands tightening on their weapons, as the horizon darkens with the promise of a terror yet unveiled. The final war begins. Across the galaxy, stars flicker as if sensing the tremor of an approaching cataclysm. Jason stands at the forefront, the blade of Zurai blazing in his grasp, its light now fused with the rift's energy coursing through him. He is half human, half other, a bridge between worlds, his body a vessel for power beyond mortal limits. Lyra rallies the guardians and the scattered wielders, their ships forming a constellation of defiance against the void. The universe braces itself, its fabric trembling as the final war dawns. The enemy is no longer a single foe but a cosmic force, an expanse of will and fury that defies comprehension. Shadows spill from the rift, not as ships or soldiers, but as a tide of living darkness, warping reality with every advance. Jason's eyes narrow, the glow within them sharpening as he steps forward, the blade singing in his hands. Time to end this, he declares, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade through time itself. The battle ignites, an intergalactic clash where planets shudder and stars dim, a war not just for Zurai but for all existence. Jason moves like a tempest, each strike a burst of light and shadow, the ultimate warrior forged in the crucible of the rift. The wielders follow, their courage a fragile flame against the infinite dark, as the cosmos holds its breath for the outcome. The storm approaches, Zurai's skyline fractures under a sky torn asunder, the rift's remnants glowing like a wound that refuses to heal. Jason stands with Lyra and the wielders, his silhouette outlined by the flickering energy in his eyes, a man transformed, no longer bound by the limits of humanity. Zurai looms beside them, his massive form casting a shadow over the sand. The rift did not close, he intones, his voice a deep rumble. It was merely a door. Jason's grip tightens on the blade, its hum resonating with the pulse in his veins. Before he can speak, the air thickens, a resonant drone fills the void, shaking the ground beneath their feet. From the rift emerges the harbinger, a biomechanical colossus towering over the horizon, its body a fusion of metal and raw, pulsing energy. Its presence bends light, its form shimmering as if it exists in multiple planes at once, its voice reverberates through Jurai, a sound that rattles bones and stirs. The soul. The Void King was merely a fragment. The true power slumbers beyond the veil. And you, wielder, are the key. Jason steps forward, undaunted, the blade flaring in his hands. If I'm the key, then you're the lock. With a surge of will, he lunges, the air igniting as he clashes with the Harbinger. The battle erupts, a cosmic duel that shakes the planet, energy clashing against energy, light against an abyss that hungers to consume. The wielders join the fray, their blades carving through the chaos, as the storm of war descends in full fury. The fall of Zurai. Zurai's cityscape lies in ruins, its spires toppled and sands stained with the blood of warriors. The Harbinger's army, the Riftborn, descends like a plague, their forms flickering between existence and oblivion, forged from collapsed time itself. They adapt with every strike, learning the wielder's patterns, their movements a dance of relentless evolution. Jason fights at the vanguard, his blade a beacon of defiance. But even his power falters against their endless tide. Zurikai battles beside him, a titan against the storm, until a rift-born spear pierces his chest. The guardian falls, his massive form crumbling into the sand, his electric blue eyes dimming as the planet groans beneath him. Cracks spiderweb through Zurai's crust, the ground splitting with a mournful roar. Lyra grabs Jason's arm, her voice cutting through the chaos. We can't win here. We have to leave. Jason hesitates, his gaze locked on Zurikai's still form, the weight of loss pressing against his resolve. But the truth shines clear amidst the ruin, they are outmatched. With a cry of anguish, he drives the blade into the earth, unleashing a shockwave of pure energy. The Riftborn scatter, momentarily stunned, their forms flickering in disarray. The survivors seize their chance fleeing to their ships as Jurai fractures behind them. Zurikai's final words echo in Jason's mind, a cryptic lifeline in the dark: find the architects. The fleet lifts off, leaving their broken home behind, the planet's fate sealed as the Riftborn reclaim its ashes. Seeking the architects, the Exodus fleet drifts through the uncharted void, a constellation of battered ships carrying the last of Zurai's hope. Jason stands at the helm, the blade resting beside him, its glow a quiet pulse against the endless black. Lyra pores over star maps, her fingers tracing ancient coordinates etched in flickering holograms. If the architects are real, they're here, she says, pointing to a lone system, the Black Sun, its light a faint ember on the galaxy's edge. The name hangs in the air, heavy with myth and shadow. The architects, whispered creators of the blade, the rift, perhaps even the cosmos itself, lie beyond the veil of known space, their existence a riddle wrapped in silence. Jason's eyes flicker with rift energy, his voice low and resolute. Then that's where we're going. The fleet's engines flare, a chorus of determination as they leap into hyperspace. The stars blur into streaks of light, the Black Sun beckoning like a distant promise, or a trap. In the stillness of the jump, Jason's hand brushes the blade, its hum a whisper of secrets yet to be unveiled, as the forgotten edges of the universe draw near.